Today's topic is setting up the action on your bass. Had a viewer that asked a question about this in a comment on a video the other day, and there's videos out there that probably cover this. I figure I can put one together as good as anyone else, and maybe I can simplify the process for you. This is something you can learn to do yourself in order to save yourself a lot of money, because if you take your bass to a shop, they're going to charge you anywhere from $45 to $75 to do this. And it's pretty easy to do. The same kind of thing happens with guitars too, but the setup is a little bit different because the bridges and neck are a bit different on a bass. So I have my trusty jazz bass variant here, my SX jazz bass, and mine's already set up, but I'm going to kind of take you through and just kind of tweak it and show you what we're going to do. First thing, we're talking about the action. The action means the height of the string above the fret. When you press down, if your strings are really high above the neck, then you have to press down, and you have to exercise with more force. It slows you up playing, it creates a particular tone, it can cause intonation and tuning problems. So you want to have the action on the bass where it's going to be comfortable for you. Where you want to set that will depend largely on how hard you pick with your right hand. If you're really heavy-handed, you want to have the action up a little bit more because the string is going to move more when you play. If you have a very light touch, then you can get this thing down to where it's just skimming off the top of the frets, and you can practically breathe on it and it'll work. That's the way I like to have it. So how do you determine whether your string height is too high? Well, it's a feel of comfort, but also what you can do is you can sight down the neck. So if I hold my bass out like this and I sight down the neck, I gotta kind of look down here, I sight down the neck, the string is always going to be a straight line. If I look at the neck of the bass, if I see a little bit of dip in there, sort of like a bow, the string on the bow is always going to be straight, and then the bow itself is curved. If I see some curve in the neck, that might indicate that in this area here of the neck in the middle, it's going to be too high to play comfortably. Maybe I can lower that action just a little bit. So what I want to do is get my neck as straight as I can get it within reason. There's two different approaches to this. One approach is that if you play with a heavier touch, and when you buy a bass from the music store, they always have the action set kind of on the high side. The reason for that is they know the customer is going to get turned off if they pick up a bass in the store and they play it and it buzzes. You'll go, oh yuck, it's got high frets, or it's badly made or something. So what they will do is at the factory, they set it up high. And that's because when it leaves the factory in China or Indonesia or Vietnam or Mexico, or if it's an American-made bass, they don't know what region of the world it's going to go to. You may end up having a bass that's made in some tropical area of some Asian nation, and it comes to you and you live in Minnesota or Alaska or Maine or Phoenix, Arizona. And the climate's drastically different in those places, and the woods will shift and adjust based on the humidity and the temperature ranges that the bass is going to be exposed to. So at the factory, they always set them high. That way, when you pick it up, it doesn't buzz, although it's going to be harder to play. So what you want to do is you want to lower the action down, but before you lower the action down, we got to have a straight neck. So by sighting down the neck, just looking down like this at it, I can look and see, okay, on my bass, that neck is virtually straight. Some people like to have a little bit of curve in there. That's called relief. The idea is that when the string, when it vibrates more in the middle than it does on either end. It makes kind of an elliptical shape. So some people like to have it so that there's a tiny bit, just a very tiny, almost imperceptible bit of bend, of curvature in the neck, so that you have room for that string to vibrate. I like to have the neck as straight as I can get it, so that's the way I set mine up. Now, how do you tighten it? If you got a bass from the store and they still have a little kit, or from online. If you get one used, you may not get this, but an Allen wrench is just a standard little tool, and most basses have a hole right up here at the top, or sometimes there's a little cap over that you can unscrew and reveal this hole. On some vintage basses, it's down at the other end of the neck, and sometimes you even have to remove the neck to do this, which is a real pain. So most modern basses have it up here at the top. You just take this little Allen wrench and you just put it inside the hole. Make sure you have the right size so you don't strip it out. Once you have it in there, then I always recommend that you do this with the bass detuned slightly. Then the first thing you do is take it to the left a quarter turn. You want to loosen it just a little bit. That's going to just ensure free motion of the rod. If the truss rod inside here is locked up and you try to crank it, you may end up breaking something, and then your base, it's a major repair at that point. So always begin by loosening just a little bit, just to make sure that the rod is moving and is operating as it should. Then you can just very little bit, maybe a quarter turn, maybe an eighth of a turn, then you sight down the neck. Then if you need to do a little bit more, do another quarter or eighth of a turn, then sight down the neck. When it's about where it looks straight as compared to the string, then you can tune it all up to pitch and try it out and see if this lowers the action just a little bit so that the string is closer to the frets in the neck. Once you have that set to a place that it looks good, then the next thing you want to do is adjust the height of the bridge saddles. All right, so now I'm set up to adjust my bridge saddles. There will be a small little Allen wrench like this with your kit. If not, you just find just a standard Allen wrench set, and you'll find one that'll have different sizes, different diameters, and you'll find one that fits the little nuts on the top of each bridge saddle. So your bridge here has 4 elements, okay? These little saddles, that's the pieces that go across it, the string sits on top of, and there's 2 legs to each saddle. And so what you can do to raise or lower these, you will just tighten or loosen, and it will go down on a side. If you adjust the other side, one side, you want to adjust the other side, so they'll be level. As you go through, you'll find a place where if you lower it enough that the string will buzz, and then you're not getting full string vibration. Once you hit that point, then just come up just little by little until you have the string as low as you can have it without buzzing. Now if you play really hard, that's going to be higher than a person who plays with a really light touch. If you're playing thrash metal, your bass is going to need to be up higher so that you can hit the string harder. If you're playing a fretless bass in a jazz context, you can have that action just really, really low. So it just depends on the type of music you play and what your particular touch is. So you use these to set the height, and then you check each string. You will have to adjust the string. If you raise up the bridge, the saddle, then what's going to happen is you're actually going to tighten the string slightly, so you have to adjust your tuning. So while I'm doing this, you notice I have a tuner. I just use one of these kind of tuners and just plug it in. If you have a headstock tuner, it'll work as well. But then you just check your tuning between when you make your adjustments. So you hit your string there, and then once you're in tune, then you go to your next string and adjust it till it's in a range of comfort. One of the things that you may find after you adjust your neck, if your neck is perfectly straight, if you sight down the neck and this end is higher than the end here by the nut, then what's showing you then is that you have basically like this little uphill kind of slope. And so what you're going to do is lower these strings in order to be able to do this. Maybe your bass had a really low action, but you had a little bow in the neck, and when you straighten the neck, now everything buzzes. That can happen pretty frequently too. So once you straighten the neck, then you're going to set the action height so that it's going to be very comfortable for you to play. Once you do this, then you're going to have to adjust the intonation. Now I have a little screwdriver like this, but any straight slot, any Phillips head screwdriver will do. And down on the end of your bridge here, there are some screws that are attached to these little cams and these springs. And what you can do is that you can turn these and you can adjust the length of the bridge saddle from the nut on this end. There's the nut down here. So what do I mean by that? The speaking length of the string is the part that vibrates. Okay, this part up here past the nut doesn't affect it, and the part on this side of the bridge really doesn't affect it. This is the part of the string that's talking, right? That's what they call that, the speaking length of the string. Maybe you've noticed sometimes when you get higher up on the neck, especially if you have higher action, the notes up here will play out of tune. They'll go sharp. Or maybe they go flat, depending on just the types of string. Maybe you buy one brand of strings, or maybe you switch from round wounds to flat wounds. the different compositions of strings, the different string gauges can affect the intonation. And so the intonation is whether it plays in tune on every fret. And one of the things that you kind of test that with is here at the 12th fret. If you know how to play a harmonic, and most people do at this point, I think, but I'm going to show you how just anyway. Just take a finger, put it precisely over the 12th fret. Not where you'd play the note usually, but right over the fret itself. Just barely touch the string. Don't press it down. Just barely touch it. And you pluck the string, and you're going to get this little bell-like tone. Those are harmonics. Now, ideally, if your intonation is set correctly, and you play that fretted note, and your bass is in tune. I'm looking at my tuner as I do this. My string is a little bit flat, so I'm going to tune it up some. Okay, there we go. I've got a good sustained tone here. It's holding in good on that G on my tuner. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the fretted note. And in this case, they match perfectly. If I play the harmonic and I play the fretted note, it comes right up and goes to pitch right on that. Now, if you do this and it's flat, if it comes up on the flat side of your tuner, then what you want to do is you want to shorten the string length. And you're going to take your little screwdriver and you're going to turn this to the left, and that's going to extend that saddle this way. If it's on the sharp side, you want to lengthen the string. So I would take this here and then tighten it by going to the right. And when I tighten it to the right, the saddle is going to move back to the rear a little bit. And you're just going to move this just a little bit. A little bit makes a big difference. And then I'll retune the string, because when you change the location of the bridge, it's going to affect the tuning. Retune the string, then check your harmonic again. If it's a little bit closer, just keep going that same direction. If you go too far, just back it up a little bit. How do you know whether to go forward or backward? Well, here's what's pretty easy to do on your tuner. I'm going to just kind of hold the tuner up here. If I play the note, I'm just going to play the open string. The needle goes up to the center. If it's flat or sharp, if the fretted note compared to the harmonic is flat, then I'm going to, because I have this setting on my bass this way, that's going to tell me that I need to move the bridge that way. If it goes to the sharp side, I know I've got to move the string that way. So it's like the little pointer thing will tell me which way to tune it. If I have like a clip-on tuner that just shows me if it's flat or sharp, it may not give me as much information as what this does. But this is a pretty easy way to know which way to tune the string. So what we have done, we straighten the neck, we adjust the action of each string to our desired place so it feels comfortable for us. Then we adjust the intonation so that the bass is going to play in tune. You do all this with a new set of strings, right? Because if you do it with an old set of strings, it may not be true, and then when you change strings with a new set, it's going to be off. So you always want to start with new strings when you do it. So that's the best time. If you ever do a string change from flat wounds to round wounds, or round wounds to flat wounds, or flat wounds to tape wounds, if you switch gauges from a light gauge to a medium gauge, then this is a process that you go through in order to make sure that your bass is going to play where you want it. So that's how you set the action on your bass. If you have questions or comments, please put them in the box below down there. I appreciate you watching. Please make sure you subscribe and share. And if you want videos on other topics, please let me know. I'm always looking for ideas and looking to help out. Thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you next time.